Adam Fox has been nominated for the King Clancy, but what does the future hold for the former Norris winner?
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1291 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, and we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So it's kind of award season in the NHL, just kind of in general, and certainly for the Rangers as well. And not too long before I hit record here, we got news that Adam Fox will be the Rangers nominee for the King Clancy Memorial Trophy this year. This is one of those awards where every team gets to nominate a player, and the Rangers obviously went with Fox. And this award is presented to the player who best exemplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice and has made a noteworthy humanitarian contribution in his community. So we're going to give Fox his props for this and talk about, his candidacy for potentially winning this award. Also today, going to go ahead and talk about, a big change is coming next season. Obviously, Sam Rosen's got one game left as I'm recording this episode. That kind of just hit me saying that out loud right now, because the next episode that we do here, we'll be talking about Sam Rosen as the former, play-by-play TV announcer for the New York Rangers. And that's pretty heavy. He's been here for a long time, and we'll discuss Kenny Albert as his replacement next season. Also going to be talking about Ty Henricks. We've been looking at some Ranger prospects recently. Going to shine the spotlight on him after he won an NCAA championship. But for right now, Adam Fox, like I said, every team in the NHL nominates a player. The award's been given out since 1987, 1988, and the winner will receive a $25,000 donation to benefit a charity or charities of his choice. And then the winner will also be eligible to elect that his team receive a grant from the NHL up to $20,000 to help organize a special activation related to his humanitarian cause. So good stuff there. And only once in the history of this award has it been won by a New York Ranger. For a little bit of history here, was given to Adam Graves back in 1993, 1994. I feel like something else big happened during that season. Can't quite put my finger on it, but I feel like there was something else pretty big for the Rangers that year. But Graves, he's one of the true good guys on and off the ice, always has been, always will be. He was recognized by the Rangers and the city of New York for his extensive community work. He served as celebrity chairman of New York's Family Dynamic Program. That is a charity which assists children who have been abused. So obviously a very deserving winner back then, Adam Graves. And like I said, Fox is the nominee this year. You might also be interested to know that former New York Ranger Kevin Hayes, he is the Pittsburgh Penguins nominee for the award this season. And, Kevin Hayes, as a quick aside here, has really been through a lot the last couple of years, obviously dealing with the untimely passing of his brother and former NHL player Jimmy Hayes. You've also got the fact that, Johnny Gaudreau, he passed away this past offseason in just a completely senseless incident. Obviously, it wasn't Johnny Gaudreau's fault, but my understanding is that Kevin Hayes was very close with Johnny Gaudreau. So he's obviously been through a lot, and nice to see him, despite all that, continuing to, be a community leader and make a positive difference, Kevin Hayes. And as far as Adam Fox goes, not too many articles that I found were able to go into too much detail as far as, his different charity work. But one thing that I know that he is definitely involved with is Tackle ALS. And on going onto their website, looks like Adam Fox, his team has raised $98,000. Every dollar that Tackle ALS raises goes directly to Mass General to fund ALS research. And ALS is, as I'm sure a lot of you are very well aware, just a very nasty disease. And this is obviously a group that's committed to find a cure for it. And obviously my heart goes out to anybody that's, ever been affected by that disease. But, Adam Fox does a lot of work with that. As far as, on the ice stuff is concerned, and Adam Fox and his credentials to be the Ranger nominee and possibly even the winner of this award, many of us, myself included, certainly feel that this has not been Adam Fox's best season. And if you look at it very literally, we can say for sure that it's not his best season. He's had better seasons than the one that he's having right now. He won the Norris, a couple of years ago, and I don't think he's going to win it this year. He's had a good season, but there are defensemen that have simply just been a little bit better and guys that I think are much more in line to win that award this season than Adam Fox. However, even in what many of us would consider a down year for Fox, and again, I think most people are on board with that assessment for the most part. These are his numbers: 73 games, 10 goals, 51 assists, 61 points, +8, and averaging 23 minutes and 16 seconds of time on the ice per night. That's actually Fox's lowest total since his rookie season, but obviously still putting in work every night. 104 block shots and 40 hits. Now, again, this is what we all, not all, but I think most Ranger fans would agree, a down season for Adam Fox, and he's not too far away from point per game territory, from a defenseman. And as far as how he stacks up versus other, big time elite NHL defensemen on the ice, Fox is not going to win the Norris this year. I don't think there's any way possible, but I would also be very surprised if he doesn't get at least a few votes, because the way that it works is, basically whoever votes on this thing, the sports writers and whatnot, whoever it might be, media members of the NHL, they don't just vote for the winner. They vote for, I believe with the Norris, it's the top 5 candidates, their top 5 picks for who should win the Norris. And the way that it works is a first place vote, I think, gets you 10 points. A second place vote, I want to say gets you 7 points, so on and so forth. It trickles down like that. The higher vote you get, if it's a first place vote, that gets you the most amount of points. If it's a fifth place vote, doesn't get you as many. He'll get some third place votes, some fourth place votes, some fifth place votes. I would have to think he'll get at least a couple of points. And again, still getting at least some Norris Trophy consideration in what I think all of us tend to agree is a down season for Adam Fox. So again, big congratulations on Adam Fox for, being nominated for this award. And, something that this award talks about is leadership, right? And that has been an issue for the Rangers this season. And there's been times where we've all of us, I think, at one time or another throughout this, wonderful season that the Rangers have probably taken aim at the guys wearing the letters, the guys that are supposed to step up into that leadership role, especially after Jacob Trouba got traded. And this team obviously had to go it without a captain for the majority of this season. I'm really hoping we see Adam Fox step up as more of a leader next season. And again, we don't know everything that goes on behind closed doors, but you just feel watching this team, they need a kick in the you-know-what, and they need guys to establish themselves as leaders. It's possible that at the start of next season, and this depends on a couple of things. It depends on whether or not both Kreider and Mika get traded. I think Kreider will be. Mika, I'm not so sure. Some people seem pretty convinced that he will be. But if those two get traded, and if the Rangers do not name a captain next year, you're down to 2 alternate captains, and it's just Adam Fox and Artemi Panarin. And if Mika and Kreider are both traded, all of a sudden somebody like Adam Fox becomes one of the longest tenured Rangers. So the Rangers really need him. They need him to step up in a big-time leadership role next season, and I'm hoping that's something that he would be willing to embrace going forward. I do think what will probably happen is that the Rangers will name a captain next season. I don't think it'll be Fox. I don't think it's going to be any of the guys that currently wear a letter. I think the two most, I don't want to say obvious candidates, because you can make cases for different people, but the two that seem the most likely to me are Vincent Trocheck and JT Miller. And that's a different conversation for a different day. But regardless, I do think, the Rangers need better leadership. And hopefully that's a role, like I said, that Adam Fox can embrace next season. We shall see. But a big congratulations for him, putting in work on and off the ice and being the Ranger nominee for this award. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. Some other big news for the Rangers is that we now know with certainty who will be replacing Sam Rosen in the New York Rangers booth next season as the play-by-play announcer. It's going to be Kenny Albert. We'll talk about him and that decision in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The Stanley Cup playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props. And when it comes to the NBA, you can bet on everything from three-pointers to steals and assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Huge shout out, as always, to the everydayers sticking with this team. Like I said, there's one game left. The next time we talk, the next time we do an episode, the Ranger 2024-2025 season will have mercifully come to its conclusion. And the Rangers will be in action at home against Tampa Bay on Thursday at 7 p.m. I'm very curious to see what the atmosphere is going to be like in the Garden. Will the fans be thanking the players? Will they just not be really that into it, given the fact that there is essentially nothing on the line in the game? Will there be anything after the game? Will the players raise their sticks even after a season like this? It's tough to say, but I'm definitely curious to see how that plays out. And, obviously, definitely hoping that a lot of the younger Ranger players will be suited up for that game. Brett Berard's got to be in the lineup, and none of the other young Ranger players should be coming out of the lineup. Also, we got this going forward as well. In addition to Adam Fox obviously being nominated, Artemi Panarin and Sam Carrick have each won team awards. We'll discuss that in greater detail in future episodes as well. But I want to shift our attention now to the big news on the media side of things when it comes to the New York Rangers, that being that Kenny Albert will be taking over for Sam Rosen as the play-by-play announcer for the New York Rangers next season. And, it's hard to come up with more things to say about Sam Rosen because, his work just speaks for itself. We've talked about just what a joy it's been and how so many of us grew up with Sam Rosen as the Ranger announcer and all these iconic calls and just how much he seems to genuinely love his job. I think that's one of the things I'll remember most about Sam Rosen. Just always in a good mood, no matter what was going on with the Rangers, and just seemed like he couldn't have been any happier to be the play-by-play announcer for the New York Rangers. Granted, it's a pretty sweet gig, be that as it may. Sam Rosen always brought it, always had his A game, and he, to me, has been an elite top-tier announcer right up until the end here. He could go a few more seasons if he wants to. By that same token, I think he certainly has earned the right to enjoy his retirement at this point and spend some more time with his family. And the bottom line, there is no replacing Sam Rosen, especially for those of us that, like I said, have been watching him for multiple decades at this point. But even though there's no replacing him, Kenny Albert is, I think, a great choice. To begin with, he's just really good. And I know that announcing, that's very subjective. And, somebody's favorite announcer might be somebody else's least favorite announcer. And that's all well and good. It's always fun to debate these things and explain why you like this announcer, you don't like that one. It's always an interesting debate to be had among sports fans for sure. But I've always been a big fan of Kenny Albert. And I don't think there's too much discourse about, or rather negative discourse about Kenny Albert. When Kenny Albert comes up among sports fans, does anybody really have anything bad to say about him? There's certain announcers across all the major sports that fans, in some cases, maybe the announcer is very polarizing. Half the people love him, half the people can't stand him. In other cases, there's kind of a variety of opinions, right? And there's mixed opinions. I don't really hear too much, oh man, Kenny Albert, he's not any good. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that. And I found this interesting too. It's one of those things that I think you're aware of, but maybe you're not really conscious of it. There we go. Kenny Albert, apparently right now, as things stand, he is the only sportscaster who currently does play-by-play for all four of the major sports, of course, NHL, MLB, NBA, and the NFL. Apparently, he also one time did all four of the major sports over the span of just 4 days. So that's pretty impressive and obviously very versatile announcer. And on top of everything that I'm mentioning right now, there's also obviously a big-time familiarity between Kenny Albert and Ranger fans due to the fact that Kenny Albert was the Ranger play-by-play announcer on the radio for quite some time, quite a bit longer than I realized, in fact. He has been the Ranger play-by-play announcer since 1995. So he got there 1 year too late, but nevertheless, anytime I've listened to the Rangers on the radio and he's there, he's always done a great job with that. And he's also filled in on TV every so often. Once in a while, maybe Sam Rosen has a football commitment or maybe he just has a rare night off. But we have seen Kenny Albert in the booth, and I think he's always done a really nice job there. Not too long ago, he got to call Alex Ovechkin his Wayne Gretzky record-breaking moment for most goals ever. I happened to be watching that game live, as I'm sure a lot of you were as well. And I thought he had a great call on that. And that's Kenny Albert in a nutshell to me. He's very excited, very enthusiastic. He gives you a great call. But then something equally important, he lets the moment breathe. He gives you the call, there's all the excitement, and then he stops for a minute because he knows he's seeing a big moment, and it's time to just let the moment speak for itself. Let the images speak for themselves. Let the crowd noise kind of carry the day for, at least a couple of minutes there, or at least a couple of seconds. So he's great. It's funny, the game that I know Kenny Albert best from, I'm going to do my best not to lose some of you guys on this, but when it comes to the NFL, my team has always been the Niners. There's probably a lot of people that kind of just assumed I was a Giants fan or a Jets fan. They are without a doubt my second and third favorite teams in whichever order you want to go with. But I was a front runner as a 7-year-old when it came to football. I got into the Niners. They were really good back then. And the game that I know Kenny Albert best from isn't a Ranger game. It's actually 49ers Saints in the playoffs back in 2011. Now, that was a phenomenal game. And the Niners won it in the last second. It was like the second to last play of the game. Touchdown pass from Alex Smith to Vernon Davis. But go back and watch highlights from that game. Kenny Albert is just awesome. He's got his A game and then some. When it comes to like the best single game performances by an announcer, some of the ones that I always think of, and it helps that my favorite teams won these games. Obviously, that helps and makes it more enjoyable. But I think of Game 7, Rangers Canucks, Sam Rosen, obviously the very iconic call at the end of that game, but he was awesome the entire game just in general. I think of Doc Emrick about 10 years ago now in the playoffs, which is crazy to think about. The Game 7 between the Rangers and the Penguins in the second round, when Henrik Lundqvist is standing on his head and the Rangers won that game 2-1. And I think of that game, Niners Saints with Kenny Albert on the call. Those to me are three of my absolute favorite single game performances by a play-by-play announcer. I should have come up with a fourth one because then I could have done like the Mount Rushmore. Maybe that sounds like a deep into the offseason kind of an episode. Maybe we'll do something like that. And feel free to send me your favorites as well. I think that could be very interesting, especially if it's Sam Rosen, because we'll do at least one more Sam Rosen-centric episode before too long here. So, but yeah, like I said, the bottom line, Sam Rosen's awesome. And I think it speaks volumes about how good he was, because you've got a situation where he only ever worked with 3 different, color commentators throughout his entire run with the New York Rangers. You had Phil Esposito at the very beginning for 2 seasons. Then it was JD forever. And now it's Joe Micheletti forever. And I think that, again, speaks volumes of how enjoyable of a broadcast partner Sam Rosen must be to work with. Something else that I'll throw out there too, and I think I've mentioned this in the past, but I'm hoping that we haven't heard the last of Sam Rosen. I hope every once in a while he'll still kind of call in from home, or maybe he'll even be there in the studio every once in a blue moon, just so that Sam Rosen can still feel like he's a part of the Ranger family, because he always will be part of the Ranger family, no matter what happens going forward. And like I said, as far as Kenny Albert goes, I can't speak for everybody, but I've been very hard pressed to find anybody saying anything negative about this hire or about Kenny Albert in general. I think he's a pretty well respected and just very well-rounded announcer, and tough to replace a legend, but I think this was probably the right call. This is the right person to go with. Obviously he's got the Ranger background, and again, just very, very good at what he does. So curious to see how that goes and how he meshes with Joe Micheletti, next season and beyond. But again, can't say enough about obviously the job that Sam Rosen has done over the years. One of the true icons of sports announcing. So in just a second, where I keep everything rolling, we're going to shift our attention to Ranger prospect Ty Henricks. He just won an NCAA national championship, and we will discuss him and his future and if and when we might see him with the Rangers, all that good stuff in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you are ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite TV shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and much more. And as far as the gaming aspect is concerned, I'm a casual gamer at best these days, but I gotta say, this sounds pretty sweet. Might be a good way to dive back into it. I might have to give this a shot. I'll let you guys know how it goes. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Figure we can close out today's episode by bringing back a spotlight that we've kind of brought back somewhat regularly recently. That is the prospect spotlight. And today we're going to shift our attention to left winger Ty Henricks. And why Henricks? Well, like I said just a minute ago, he did just win a national championship as a freshman with Western Michigan. Not only that, but he actually scored in the championship game what turned out to be the game-winning goal. Henricks scored in the second period. That extended Western Michigan's lead to 3-1, and then they went on to win the game by a final score of 6-2. So that did hold up as the game-winning goal. That was Henricks' only point in Western Michigan's 4 different tournament games, but you talk about making it count, right? A 19 years old, he's got an NCAA championship, game-winning goal. That's pretty awesome. And as far as his background is concerned, and if that name is familiar, it's because he was a former 6th-round pick by the New York Rangers. Like I mentioned just a second ago, he is still just 19 years old, but he also kind of continued this trend that I like quite a bit. The Rangers have pulled off in the draft in recent years. Once it gets into the later rounds, we're talking like the 5th round, the 6th round, the 7th round. The Rangers tend to draft a giant, like a literal giant or two in the last couple of rounds there. It seems to really happen in the 6th round because Matt Rempe's the obvious one. He's the one that comes to mind right away. Adam Edstrom was also a 6th-rounder. Dylan Robrek, he's a giant too. I'm trying to remember. I don't have it in front of me. Was he a 6th-rounder? He was right around there for sure. And fast becoming one of my favorite Ranger prospects. We'll talk about him in a future episode for sure. But now you've got Henricks, not quite as big as some of the other guys, but he is 6'4", 216 pounds. So he's got some size in his own right. And he is not shy about using that to his advantage. There was a clip on social media, on Twitter is where I found it, looking for some information on Henricks. And somebody, I'm not sure who put this together, but somebody edited a video together of Henricks basically just creaming his opponents. This guy is a big-time physical player and somebody that will lay you out if he gets the chance to do it. These hits were all clean as far as I could tell. It's one of those things where, it's not the NHL, so you don't have like a million different camera angles to go by, but they all look like clean hits to me. Nevertheless, he does tend to unload on his opponents. A couple of open ice hits, a couple along the boards in the neutral zone as well. But, for Ranger fans that want this team to get bigger, tougher, more physical, and I think probably that's all of us. You could always use a little bit more of that. And really, whoever your favorite team is, you probably always want a little bit more physicality and whatnot. But this is somebody that brings it. I mean, there's no doubt about that watching, some of these highlights here. But as far as how he's done, 41 regular season games for Henricks at Western Michigan this past season, the one that just concluded, 8 goals, 5 assists. So 13 points in the 41 games. He was also a plus 16. And as far as like that not being a high point total, my understanding is that he wasn't playing like in a prominent role for Western Michigan. Full disclosure, I did not watch every Western Michigan game this season, but nevertheless, that's my understanding. And also, there's several forwards on that team that are going to be on their way. This was their last season with the team, or likely their last season with the team. So very possible that Henricks is in a much bigger role next season if he is back there. The season before that, of course, that was his first college season, but he was with the Muskegon Lumberjacks of the USHL. 60 games there, 17 goals, 15 assists, 32 points, and a plus 5. And the season before that, he was with the Anaheim Junior Ducks 16U team. Listen to these numbers. And again, I realize it's not the NHL. I get that. But crazy numbers here. 60 games, 68 goals, 55 assists, 123 points. Is that good? I think that's pretty good. And obviously, the farther along you go in hockey and the tougher the competition gets, those numbers are unsustainable as you begin to climb the ranks. But those are still numbers that certainly jump off the chart when you look at them here. There was something else here as far as Henricks is concerned that I thought was interesting. I was able to find an article by Warren Kozareski on nyhockeyonline.com. And he interviewed Henricks as part of this story. So Henricks left his home in California when he was very young to go play hockey for Shattuck St. Mary's in Minnesota. And this is a quote from Henricks in that story. He can obviously tell the story better than I can, but this is what he had to say. When I was about 11, I went to Shattuck camp for younger kids, and it's kind of a bite-sized experience of the school, and I did that twice and fell in love with the program, and I knew that it was one of my goals to attend the school. When I got the opportunity to play up on the U14 at 13, there is no way I could turn that down. My parents weren't too pleased with the idea, but after some thought, they said if this is what's best for him and his hockey career, then let's let him do it. So that's pretty interesting. Obviously, moving away from home at a young age to essentially play hockey and just get better. And obviously, it's paid off in a big way. He was drafted, and now he's got a game-winning goal in an NCAA championship game. So very cool stuff. As far as scouts go, we've talked about this before, but once it begins to get a little bit later in these NHL drafts, it becomes that much more difficult to find extended scouting reports or even video highlights in some cases. He got a little bit more attention due to obviously Western Michigan making the run that they did and becoming national champions. But these are the scouting reports that I could see. This one from Dobber Prospects, a big winger who is a long-term project with average skating and some offensive upside. And then this came to us from the Elite Prospects 2023 NHL Draft Guide. He immediately recognizes danger and sprints to eliminate it. On sheer will, he catches up to opponents, then overpowers them with his stick work and a heavy shoulder. Something just popped up on my screen. Hold on. And a heavy shoulder into the boards. So, yeah, I mean, again, that's very scarce information. We're not going to be too much of a judgment just based on those two very brief scouting reports. But again, to go back to what I was talking about a minute ago, I do very much appreciate and favor this strategy that the Rangers have when it comes to who they take late in drafts. Obviously, once you get that late, it becomes a little bit of a dart throw, a little bit of a crapshoot anyway. But something that does not slump is size and strength. And if you can find somebody that's a giant and has at least some theoretical upside, then by all means take them. And so far, so good with the Rangers with that strategy. You talk about Matt Rempe. He's a polarizing player. I understand that. But you show me somebody that plays in the fourth line, it's a former 6th-round draft pick, that impacts the game in a more unique way and just a more generally impactful way than Matt Rempe does. And he's kind of established himself as a hard worker and somebody that's willing to do whatever he can to try to get better. So it's working out with Rempe. Adam Edstrom, he was having a heck of a season this year. I feel bad that he got injured. And again, he's sort of become the forgotten man this year, just like he did last year. Edstrom last season actually debuted a little bit before Matt Rempe did. And then Rempe debuted, and obviously he had all the hoopla and everything. And it's understandable why, because he got into all those fights and he got kind of a cult following out of the whole deal. But, Edstrom was good last year. Edstrom was good this year. And I'm hoping that he can come back and be a big-time contributor for this team next season as well. But as far as I'm concerned, you're 2 for 2. Because when you're taking somebody in the 6th round, you're just hoping they can contribute to your NHL team at some point in some way. And the two of them are both doing that at a very young age. So as far as I'm concerned, Rempe, Edstrom, Rangers are already 2 for 2. Time is going to tell with Dylan Robrick. He is playing right now for the Hartford Wolfpack. And the last time I checked, he's sitting at 19 goals. The Pack has 2 games remaining. So he's got an outside shot. Not even an outside shot. He's got a shot at a 20-goal season. And he's somebody that, again, is a giant. He's just about as tall as both Edstrom and Rempe. So they've got a shot of turning him into a useful player as well. And now we've got Henricks, and we'll see how it goes here. He technically is eligible, Henricks, to join the AHL as soon as this upcoming season. I'm not holding my breath. I don't think it will happen. I wouldn't even be in favor of it happening. He's only played 1 college season. And if somebody like Gabe Perreault can play 2 college seasons, then I think Henricks should probably play at least 2 as well. The farther along you go in the draft, the later somebody's drafted, typically the longer they're going to spend at college before they, turn pro. And as I mentioned earlier, it sounds like Henricks could be looking at a bigger role with Western Michigan next season. And I think he should take advantage of that, continue to develop, and hey, go win a national title. Why not? So yeah, again, at the very least, I do think this is an interesting prospect, an intriguing prospect. And he's somebody that I think fans will certainly appreciate, if no other reason, for the size and the toughness and the physicality. That goes a long way, I think, especially for Ranger fans, but certainly hockey fans of any team. Should also mention, I touched on the Wolfpack not too long ago. They're winding down too. They only have 2 games left. They play tonight, Wednesday, at home against Charlotte, and then they play Friday at home against Bridgeport. So the Wolfpack season is actually going to last 1 day longer than the Rangers season, but the Wolfpack 2 will not be playing postseason hockey. They've actually been eliminated for quite some time here. They had a brawl with Bridgeport the other night, the other team in that division that won't be going to the playoffs and the minor league affiliate of the New York Islanders. Robrick, I mentioned him just a second ago. He was right in the middle of everything. Got kind of crazy. If you didn't get a chance to look it up, I know it's circulating on Twitter. You can probably find it there. But yeah, no playoffs for the Wolfpack, unfortunately. But Yep, figure we can call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @jchick17. Once again, that's @jchik17, and definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.